Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Starfield is finally here and has already gone through quite a varied discourse on the internet, with many thinking it to be absolutely fantastic, to others thinking that it's alright, which isn't a bad position to be in, to be honest. I mean, just look at the 230,000 players playing on Steam during early access. But because of the overall incredible hype this game has generated for the past few months now, many wanted this game to be something far, far greater. Now, personally, I just want to say right off the bat that I found this game to be pretty amazing, even with its flaws, and after playing it for a good amount of time, I realized that there are some genuine concerns in this game which have ultimately caused the varied reaction it did end up receiving. So, here is my review for the game, with me trying my very best not to include any major spoilers for you guys, while also explaining why this game didn't hit the mark with a few people. Let us begin by talking about the layout of the story and the places and how they correlate, because this is by far the most important aspect to understanding this game. Now, Starfield is not at all a space sim. It's a Bethesda RPG set with the flavor of space. Planets, major cities, dungeons, or even bigger buildings, and even space itself. These are all separate entities. And when you have to build a classic Bethesda type RPG among them, it looks very different from the RPGs that you already know. You might think that this game might look like Fallout or Skyrim when you go into it, but frankly, once you open the map in those games to get an idea what type of world you're taking part in, it kind of helps in understanding the immersion by seeing different capitals, understanding what the world is going to look like, where you're going to go, and you can see those capitals and those places far off when you're doing side quests and everything. But in Starfield, the world map is actually a galactic map, and it is dark. There's not really much information to go on because there's just these many dots, and you don't really know how most of these things correlate. You don't get an understanding of factions and their story, or in many cases, you don't even end up interacting with many of them until you enter their systems. And this means that you end up using way more time to get in grips with the game and understanding how everything is connected. Now, Skyrim and Fallout are both well established IPs, and you already know what you will be expecting when you play them. In Starfield, you're learning everything from the start, and in such a massive world. This game has 5 times more content than either of them, so it will definitely take a while. The game could have been a little more streamlined, but I'm not holding that against it because that's just a sort of game you gear up for when you get into space territory. The fastest way to get an understanding of the game is by playing the main campaign. Now, I don't personally think you need to push yourself to complete the entire campaign before you unlock the full potential of the game. So, if you're just having fun skipping the main quest, do that. You shouldn't have a feeling that you're missing out. Play this game however you're having fun the most. It's just that if the game starts feeling slow, then yeah, go ahead, do the campaign quest, and you learn about another whole new world with different content entirely, and that might be more appealing to you. Now, because of how segmented everything is, you end up building quite a few diverse things as they've done in this game. All the cities are massively different from each other, with having completely new assets for each one of them and completely new stories, and they all fit in very well. It looks great and it feels great, but it also completely breaks the immersion most of the time because of having loading screens within cities while entering buildings, because the outside scale of the building doesn't match the inside scale, or how like every planet has only one major city on it. It is a little weird. And the biggest gripe with what I have personally with the game is the land maps. Like, I understand having a terrible land map when I'm exploring out in the wilderness, I get that. But having these within cities is terrible. They don't tell you anything. It's like going around in circles. So what I have understood from this game is that you basically use your scanner to navigate through everything. The scanner will tell you where to go. It'll tell you most of the information you need to know And I think that's what they're going for with this game as well. Even when you need to fast travel, just pop up the scanner. And as far as going around in cities is concerned, they just want you to basically figure it out yourself and have a good old adventure, I guess. All this heavy segmentation does have one good point though. The devs have allowed you to actually fast travel to a completely different planet in front of any particular building of your choosing in one simple loading screen. Now, for me, this is great. For some of you, you might think this is horrible, but honestly, after traveling 3 to 5 times while doing the entire thing, I actually love being able to jump straight into the content, and I can easily just take the odd stroll whenever I feel like it. Now let's talk about the quality of the content and the quests overall, and also talk about the graphics after this, since I think both need to work hand in hand to give you a whole experience. We already know that the game is massive, more than 250,000 lines of dialogue, and honestly, it's quite brilliant. The story is the star, pun intended. There is so much to do, and these aren't at all random, dull filtered quests either. There genuinely some great stories and adventures to be had with this game and multiple choices to be made. And I think it's an absolute blast, personally. What I can say without giving any spoilers is that they have done a fantastic job of making the gameplay quite immersive within the large segments, so it doesn't feel all that bad, and their handcrafted elements being put procedurally can sometimes end up making things look absolutely beautiful. In the combat area, there is actually quite a lot of fun to be had. They have thoroughly made an option to allow you to both have a silent routine or a massive killing spree routine. Anything you like goes in almost every case, if you're willing to do the extra legwork, that is. Now, there are a plethora of guns and gadgets and chemical drugs and whatnot for you to enhance your playstyle the way that you like. And this also completely ties into the crafting and research side of the game. But this part of the system isn't available early on. In fact, you have to spend quite a few skill points to get these things. And in theory, you can get these unlocked pretty fast, but that would mean having the opportunity cost of losing something else that's quite worthwhile. But that's just how an RPG works. You decide your playstyle entirely. But there are so many skills in this game, so you end up having to level a lot. And in some cases, I would think that the amount you need to level is not normal for what most of you would like to go with. So if you're taking up Starfield as your main game to play, that is awesome news for you. But if you wanted it to be a side game, the game will make you suffer a bit. I only say this because most people tend to like shorter games, and if you only wish to do the main campaign and leave Starfield, you will definitely not be able to experience the whole package at all. Going into the graphic side of things, Starfield has more handcrafted content than Skyrim and Fallout combined. But does that make the world look and feel good? Well, most of the time, yes. The game isn't perfect though. If you're trying to find some cracks, oh, you will find plenty in this game. There are multiple places you will find odd flat textures or buggy effects, but the main parts of the games which you deal with the most are great and in some cases absolutely fantastic. To put it plainly though, most materials like metals, plastic ornaments, or even subwound elements look great. There is a lot of detail that they've put into these numerous elements, and this also makes your ship end up looking absolutely gorgeous. Guns also look very sleek and just beautiful, but almost everything organic, like NPCs, animals, trees, plants, they're just alright. They kind of mess up the vibe sometimes, and other times they seem to do a decent job of making the view look very good. The trick, honestly, in Starfield is the lighting. It's done very well for the most part to suit the main areas, but it is severely lacking in certain areas like caves, for instance, which end up making the rocks really plain, dull, and flat. So, more often than not, you will love the atmosphere you're in, just know that the renders will at times, in hidden corners, just suddenly fall out. The NPCs, as I just talked about, they all aren't great. Yes, they are a huge leap ahead from what Bethesda is used to, and I think it's absolutely great that they've achieved this bar. But the gaming industry, at least in terms of NPC examples, have really been set to a way higher standard by now. But for a Skyrim lover like me, NPCs are still good enough to enjoy the game, especially because the main NPC models that you end up having to use, or well, I mean the ones you end up interacting with, they're still very decent and they hold up with the story. Honestly, in UI, the only issue I have is that they need to add tiny pictures of items when we loot them, because I don't know what I'm looting entirely, especially when you're starting the game. I don't want to open the whole inventory screen just to pick up 3 items each and every single time I'm going around looting a science lab. It is very frustrating. But overall, it's a good package, and you will absolutely love certain scenes. But as I said at the very start, the game is huge. Most reviewers, honestly, I don't even think they got this far into the game when they gave their scores, when the embargo even, ended. I still believe the true score for this game will reveal itself within 2 to 3 weeks on Steam itself. Since this game is a paid game, it won't be possible to review bomb it in that way. I imagine it will be doing well. I think it'll do very well. But it won't go as entirely awesome as some people think, because it does have some big glaring issues, especially on PC. This part is for PC players only. So, Starfield, simply put, is not easy to run on PC. Now, people should note right now that devs at Bethesda have put a 1070 Ti as the minimum recommended graphic card needed for this game, and that is kind of a tall order for a majority of the PC gamers. I know tons of people have terrific rigs, but not everybody. But that's not just it. Starfield hits your CPU like a truck. It is the main bottleneck for this game, and it will test your systems. People with high-end rigs should expect around 50 to 80 FPS in the open world at maximum settings. Everyone else should keep in mind that you will have to lower your settings to enjoy this game. Now, speaking of settings, sadly this game does feature a very basic approach to slide around the quality that you would like. Personally, for me, I absolutely hate TAA anti-aliasing, and it has been implemented in this game and I cannot turn it off, which is kind of sad for me personally. I don't know how everyone else feels about that. There's a lack of DLSS support, but people have modded it. But it would have been better if Bethesda themselves implemented it. This game does need the FPS boost, like severely. And they also are missing an FOV scale and a brightness setting, which is a little odd. Overall though, it does the job, and honestly, this game is not the best PC port, and they could have done a way better job at it, because I think that they ended up optimizing the Xbox more than they did for the PC. I think should have given PC a bit more time as well. To end, closing off my thoughts, I just want to say that I do think this game is a little longer than your regular gamer is gonna like. I mean, heck, even Witcher 3, which is a beast of a game, it was confirmed that a vast majority of players who went really far into the game never really ended it. The difference is, Starfield's main story is actually not that long. It's really important to the game, however. You need to understand the world around you, and without the main story tying it all together, you're gonna be missing a lot of things. So if you're someone who regularly goes outside side questing a lot within these type of games, Starfield will kind of force you to do the main quest, because otherwise you would never end up getting to go to the other planets and not really understand what's going on, like with the entire universe in general. So if you're not a fan of the main story, you're not gonna have a great time, like many of the reviewers who I basically thought the game was too shallow, and I do disagree with that. I do not think the game is shallow. What I will say is that the game does require a bit of dedication. Plus, honestly, in most cases, if you try to look at the technical sense of a game and you really go deep inside of it, most reviewers, including me, we end up getting so close, we end up missing the big picture. And I think a different casual view for Starfield is actually better. Now, Starfield is a great game. The flaws don't do it kind, but I imagine most people will love this game and will definitely be a game that is played throughout the ages because of the way that it is. And the modding community is absolutely, I think, the best part about Bethesda overall, about the entire community. Now, Starfield 100% does get better and better the more you play it, the same way Todd Howard said himself, that the game rewards you the more you play it. The question in the end is, when do you lose that spark and call it quits? That's all for me. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, as it does really help my channel grow and makes me strive to be a better content creator. Share a comment on what you think about the game if you're in early access, or what you think about the video in general. Be kind, be humble, be brave. Take care.